All right, let's jump right in. We're going to talk about creativity and morality, which is a really complex relationship. But let's start with what we think we know, the common wisdom. I mean, think about it. We treat creativity like it's this pure, unquestionable good thing, right? It's the engine of progress, art, innovation, you name it. Companies are desperate to hire creative people, schools are trying to teach it. We basically put it on a pedestal as one of the best things a person can be. But what if that's just not the whole story? What if there's a darker side? In this explainer, we're going to challenge that big assumption. Because it turns out that same creative spark, the one that gives us incredible innovation, well, it can also be used to fuel some pretty terrible destruction. So let's do it. Let's explore that unsettling flip side of the creative coin. And yeah, there's actually a name for this. Researchers call it malevolent creativity. And here's the thing. It still checks all the boxes for what we call creative. It's new, it's original, it works, but its entire purpose is weaponized. So it's not that these people aren't creative. Oh no, they are. Their creativity is just pointed in a really harmful direction. If you want a huge, kind of chilling example, just look at the Manhattan Project. I mean, the amount of brain power, the sheer creativity that went into that was world-changing. But it also led to, well, unparalleled destruction. And yet, and this is the crazy part, that very same science also gave us breakthroughs in nuclear energy and medicine. It just goes to show you how creation and destruction can be two sides of the very same coin. And this isn't just about atom bombs or something from a history book. It happens in the modern world, too. The scholar Robert Sternberg, for example, pointed out that trying to subvert an election, well, that takes a whole set of highly creative strategies. Think about it. Attacking the media, sowing doubt, getting your followers riled up. Each of those steps requires some pretty novel thinking to tear down the systems that are already in place. Okay, so this is the big question, right? What makes someone take their creative gifts and use them for something bad? What is going on inside their head? Let's take a look. Well, psychologists have a theory. They point to this group of personality traits they call the dark tetrad. And these traits are often linked to this kind of malevolent creativity. First up is narcissism. You know, that inflated sense of self, that desperate, unending need for admiration. It can make a person feel like they can justify anything as long as it feeds their ego. And that often goes hand in hand with Machiavellianism. And this is more than just being manipulative. It's about being strategically manipulative. These are people who see everyone else as just pawns on a chessboard. They're masters at understanding what makes people tick, and they use that to exploit any weakness they can find for their own gain. Then you have the third trait, psychopathy. And this one is really about a deep, profound lack of empathy. It's what allows someone to do incredibly harmful things without that little voice in their head, that speed bump of guilt. There's just no concern for the people they're hurting. It's that emotional disconnect that really opens the door to causing harm. And finally, the last piece of the puzzle, and it's a chilling one, is sadism. This is what completes the tetrad. And with sadism, hurting people isn't just a way to get something else. The harm is the point. The suffering of others is literally the reward. And look and see how, in our digital age, this has found a pretty powerful and often anonymous home in things like cyberbullying and trolling. So, to really map out how this stuff happens, researchers came up with what they call the amoral model. And it's pretty cool. It breaks down the entire process. It starts with the antecedents. That's the why. Why did this happen? Then you got the mechanisms and operants. That's the who, how, and where of it all. It's only after all that you get to the realization, the creative act itself. And of course, that leads to the after effects and eventually the legacy. So you see, a creative act isn't just one flash of inspiration, it's a whole chain of events from start to finish. But look, it's not always so black and white, right? It's not always supervillains and heroes. The line between good creativity and bad creativity can get really, really blurry. It often lives in this murky, moral gray area. I mean, take deception. At its core, lying is a creative act. You have to invent a whole other reality. But whether it's good or bad, that depends entirely on why you're doing it. Lying to save a friend from a stalker, that's a protective moral act. A con artist using the exact same creative skills to steal someone's life savings, that's exploitation. Same tool, totally different intent. There's this amazing case with the poker pro Phil Ivey. He noticed this tiny, tiny printing flaw on the back of the playing cards. So he came up with this brilliant, creative way to trick the dealer into turning the cards just so, and he won millions. Now, the casino screamed cheater, but Ivy said nope, that's just a legitimate strategy. It got so messy, it went all the way to the UK Supreme Court. And they had to decide, where's the line between a brilliant strategy and illegal deception? It's a tough one.
Okay, so after all that, what's the big takeaway here? What's the bottom line when it comes to creativity and morality?
Well, it's this. Creativity by itself is amoral. It doesn't have a built-in moral compass. It's just a tool, a really powerful cognitive tool. And just like a hammer can be used to build a beautiful house or smash a window, creativity's impact is all about the person who's using it.
And this is absolutely critical to understand. Studies show that creative people aren't just better at finding clever new ways to cheat or bend the rules. They're also better at justifying it to themselves. They can spin a more creative, more convincing story about why it was okay, which makes it a whole lot easier to live with their own unethical choices. So that leaves us with one last kind of provocative thought. We are constantly told to be more creative. We tell our kids that, we want it from our leaders, we demand it of ourselves. But when we say that, what are we really asking for? Are we, maybe unintentionally, also opening the door to more creative ways to be destructive or deceptive or just plain dishonest? That's something to chew on long after this is over.